Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. This is actually going to have to be a very short and sweet one, as I am traveling throughout the day, so I only have around about half an hour to get this video together. So we're not going to waste any time. You know, we're potentially looking at a Black Friday sale today. We had some pretty horrific earnings from Amazon. We know Meta sold off 24% yesterday. By the way, that's nearly $200+ billion in terms of value wiped off of Meta, which is Facebook, of course. We also had Amazon, which I believe is down a whopping 21% after 4Q net sales forecast missed. You know, we are now entering a recession, and this is not just a America-specific issue. You know, we know that Hong Kong stocks and certainly the Hang Seng and another of other indexes for the sort of Chinese stock market are back at 2009 lows. And this is just really a sign of the time. This is why we've persistently said that we don't think the bottom is in for the cryptocurrency market. And we're going to continue to maintain that stance until we see reason to suggest otherwise. What you've got to understand as an investor is it's all a liquidity game, right? So when money is, and the supply of money is inflating, the assets that are priced in that money will typically go up. It's a basic supply and demand kind of formula that you apply here. It's why markets essentially from March 2020 onwards erupted. It's why we have this very high inflation, even though they're blaming supply chains. Go and watch Milton Friedman's talk on inflation, where he looks at the fact that they used to use tobacco in America as a currency, and then everyone started growing tobacco, and then essentially the price of everything went up massively in tobacco. Go and watch that. And it's all a liquidity game, guys. And this is the thing. The liquidity tap, not only has it stopped, it's actually getting taken back and going back into the debt markets and servicing the debt markets. The dollar's been a very intricate part of our story, and we saw a big pullback for the dollar. Well, we know that the Dixie is nearly 50%, might even be over 50% against the euro. I'll have to look that up. And the ECB have done another 75% basis point rate hike. And then they've actually came out and said, okay, instead of we're definitely going to do this many, we'll see how it goes. And they know all central banks around the world right now are faced with a dilemma. They either choose hyperinflation of their currency or systemic failure, financial failure, probably in the debt instruments, in the debt markets. And it's a tightrope that they're walking. This notion of a soft landing would be an absolute miracle. Doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It just means that it's unlikely. And as a trader, you know, we always go with the most amount of probability stacked in our favor. It's just how we do things. And this is kind of, you know, the reasoning that we think that crypto is going to continue to come down. Just quickly, whilst we're still on the dollar, we know why this pulled back now, because we know that there was going to be some pushback from the euro. The problem is now that we've had that event, what did we see straight after? And if you guys aren't following me on Twitter, guys, head over to my Twitter account. It is @RealAllInCrypto. Make sure you follow my account and not a fake one. Now that we've had the ECB event, we're now seeing a climb. And if the dollar starts to rip and go back to new all-time highs, well, what do you think happens with Bitcoin? The correlation is there, and we've been saying this is the most, as a investor, as a trader, this is the most important chart. How do you know when the bottom's potentially in for the crypto space? Well, maybe the top's in for the dollar. And I do have a Patreon where we are going to look at this and try and time the bottom. Not that we're going to get it perfectly right, but hopefully we're going to get it as right as possible. Have a number of other tools that we look at that are not bottomed yet or not topped yet to suggest that this market, liquidity is just one. Obviously, we watch sort of financial regimes very, very aggressively because it's very telling. But the dollar is something you guys need to pay attention to, because when this tops, you could maybe take a guess and say that maybe the cryptocurrency market, or you've got a better chance of the cryptocurrency market of bottom then than it has now. This is why all your bottom callers have got destroyed. Let me just say this, including myself, everybody looks like a genius in a bull market, guys. It's the people who make money in a bear market that stand out. All your YouTubers and Twitter guys that have built up so many followers, they're crumbling. Every single call that they're getting is almost coming out as a wrong call at the moment. Certainly the ones that have stayed on the side of the bullish narrative, and even the ones on the bearish narrative, like they've missed so much. We called this here. We said you're going to get a rally. And in actual fact, today, even though we have surmised and we said, look, you know, you're going to get a lot of tears out there if we end up doing something like this, and we're kind of playing out to that path, I would maybe, you know, potentially we get some sort of a pullback here, and then do something like that. I think that would really pee people off. Markets will always go to the side of pain. So I'm not really sure how Bitcoin's going to play out today. We do have some shorts on one or two altcoins, but I'm traveling today, so I don't really like to day trade when I'm traveling because I can't really do it. But there's a lot going on, and the reason I said that, you know, we may be in for a bit of a Black Friday is what we saw with the stock markets. You know, Amazon now sinks 21% after Q4 net miss. We also had, you know, the likes of Microsoft coming up. This was very interesting. Microsoft still trades at one of its most expensive valuations ever. Last time it reached similar levels was at the peak of the tech bubble. It then declined 65% subsequently. There is so much more risk today for stocks like Microsoft to be re-rated at much lower prices. So we live in this sort of like, you know, what is fair valuation for anything now when you have a credit system? Because you're constantly looking at the future valuations, not today's valuations. And this is where people often get caught out because there's not actually a fair value that's been set necessarily. It's all about what the future value may be if this happens and that happens. And this is why these stocks are so fragile at the moment. And we can actually see that if we take a look at Amazon, you know, it's doing pretty horrifically. And it's actually, if you look at the pre-market, trading back into this dip here that we had in March 2020. So it's back in March 2020 sort of range. It's somewhere down here. What have we got Amazon at here? We got it at just above 90. So that puts you, we'll say 91, back at, you know, the capitulation event in March 2020. This is my fear for the cryptocurrency market. You know, this is March 2020 over here. If you look at ARK and all these other sort of stocks, you know, this was artificially caused by the money printer. Yes, we had the 4-year cycle theory, and there's no doubt in my mind that we would have seen some sort of a bull market. But just like crypto, just like the stock market, you know, this was all caused by your M1, your money supply, and it going into, you know, hyperinflation. You know, there's never been a printathon like that. And this is the kind of inherent flaw with the system that we're in, is it has to continue to get bigger and bigger in order to feed itself. It's a monster that now that it's out the cage, you know, it only gets put back one way, and that's with a bullet in its head. And this is my kind of concern with being an investor right now is, you know, is this the time, or do they sort of divert it like they did in 2008, which is why Satoshi created Bitcoin? Very, you know, amazing foresight. Or is this the sort of systemic debt failure, and then we have to move on to some sort of another system, which sounds insane to people because it's all we've known, but it's nothing new. You know, if you look throughout history, we've gone from system to system. At one point in Britain, we used sticks as a sort of credit system, and it's where we get the saying, the short end of the stick. So there's lots going on. You know, is this going to be a Black Friday event? Potentially. In all fairness, though, we're not seeing the NASDAQ futures do too badly at all, or the ES, or any of the NASDAQ futures, actually, not just the QQs. But you know, if you look at what's happening here, guys, it's not good. And actually, Meta is trading below its March 2020s. Not good at all. And I think that this is going to have contagion in the cryptocurrency market. It may not, but we're yet to see. You know, gold is nearly 1% down today. The FTSE is down. The dollar is finding its strength after we had that ECB news, and it's up against most of its pairs. Asian markets are down. You know, there's real contagion going on, and I would be pretty surprised. And I think the only reason crypto hasn't tanked as of yet is because it's lack of interest. This is just low volume. It's very small money that's moving this right now, which is why we have these big spikes, and people are just getting wrecked, consistently wrecked. I know when to trade, and I know when to not trade. We longed here. We probably got out round about here, and I can show all the proof for that. And you'd have been on that train if you were in my Patreon. But we haven't really played around up here because we know what these markets are like at the moment. You know, it's not directional. It's not trending. It's kind of in this area where it's like, I don't know what to do. You know, the stock market's collapsing. Should we follow suit? Or the dollar's now pulling strength, or the dollar's weak. Well, we can rally now. Oh wait, the dollar's now pulling back. Oh, so you know, maybe we should you know. It's very intricate markets right now. It's very interesting. I'm loving it. you know, this ultimately is what I do as a career. And it's, you know, I find it very enjoyable. But there's lots and lots going on. This was very interesting. The world's biggest Bitcoin miner is going bust. This is what happens when Bitcoin trades below product cost for too long. So the problem with this is, and we've actually spoken, Will Clement came along and he said, good thing they have no Bitcoin left. Ever the optimist, which is, you know, you got to respect that. The issue is well, this is the biggest company. What about the smaller ones or the midterm ones? And what happens if Bitcoin's price goes lower? That capitulation continues. And yes, the Bitcoin difficulty, mining difficulty will adjust, meaning that you won't need to, you know, you'll get more Bitcoin essentially, which may make up for the cost, but you've got to see people come out of the space first. And the problem with miners is they are one of the biggest distributors of Bitcoin. Certainly the ones that have a large inventory that have kind of said that they're not going to sell, you know, they're committed, just like Elon Musk was committed to not selling. And look at how that played out. So it's going to be very, very interesting. You know, this is all reasons why we're not an investor here. You know, and I get so many comments, and I know why you're commenting it, by the way, for those of you that do leave those comments, because you've bought, and I understand that you want this to be the bottom, and maybe it is, and maybe I'm wrong, and for your sake, I hope that that's the case. And let me just say this, over the long term, I do believe in the crypto space, and I do think that, you know, potentially, even if you bought here, you're going to be fine. But for me, I'm a lot more of an active trader and an investor, and I try and really maximize the returns that I get, and try and play the market as best as I possibly can, not just being, and I've been a passive investor, and it's worked for me previously. But I think that we are in a very tricky time period where we have far greater things going on than just the crypto space that we have to pay attention to. And I understand why you're commenting, saying, you know, that I'm wrong and this and that and the other, and maybe I am. I don't know. Neither do you. And this is how markets go, unfortunately. You know, we don't have a certainty, but we have probabilities, and in my opinion, the probabilities are stacked on the side of myself and the people that watch this channel. And we're ultimately expecting further downside, and I think that does come. I don't want it to, because as a trader as well, you know, I'm noticing that the people just are like, you know, they don't want to trade this market, which kills off my revenue, because all I want is movement. So as a day trader, I don't care if it goes up or down. As an investor, obviously I have a bias that it goes down, but even if it just went up from here and this was the generational bottom and everything's going to be fine, which I don't think is likely, and I think you guys listening to me saying this will know that it's probably not, then we're still getting back in with multiples of the cryptocurrency that we got out with. So it could be an interesting day. You know, it's now very much back to dollar dominance, in my opinion, potentially. One scenario I have surmised for the dollar is that maybe you do something a little bit like this. You know, I could see something like this playing out. You know, maybe you do something like that. I'm not really sure. But it's going to be an interesting day. I would have expected, actually, crypto, just a quick word on it, and for anybody that's trading today, to potentially have sold off a little bit more than it has based on this. But I think that's just lack of volume. I think people don't want to take the risk here, to be honest. But just remember that Amazon, Meta, they're all trading back in their March 2020 crash zones. Could you see a similar thing for crypto? It's not out of the realms of possibility. I think you get a bid before then. I'll be buying before we get back into March 2020's price range, to be honest. But there is the potential. That's all I've got for you in this video, guys. It's just supposed to be a short and quick one. I'm going to love and leave you. If you enjoy the content, like, as always, appreciate it. So it's a comment, and I'll see you all in the next YouTube video. Thanks a lot for watching, ladies and gents.